This episode of Top to Bottom is sponsored by Noted Analytics. Are you tired of losing sales opportunities to the status quo? Not seeing meaningful information in CRM to help close deals? Empower your team with Noted Analytics, the first guided selling for CRM platform that uses sales methodologies like gap selling, Medic, and others to revolutionize the way revenue teams capture, evaluate, and measure sales process effectiveness. Start increasing win rates, shortening sales cycles, and growing average sales prices today. Check it out at notedanalytics.com.
And we're live.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome to Sales Top to Bottom. I'm Keenan, your host, with the lovely Becc. Becc, is it true what they say about spring in Paris?
What do they say about spring in Paris?
You live there. I don't know.
Well, you clearly have something in your mind.
Haven't you ever heard the phrase springtime in Paris, Becc? Jesus.
No. What is it? What does it denote?
I don't know. It's the land of the lovers. I don't fucking know. Like, Becc, you're supposed to know these. I throw you a softball for the first time, and you bat it right back at me. So expect you'll never get a softball again.
I don't think it was a softball.
You got to get. Oh, 100%. It was just clearly on the phrase springtime in Paris.
No, I think it was a personal details ball. To be honest. And I was thinking, I was like, if he asked me one more personal question, I'm going to cut him into little pieces and feed him to snakes.
It was simply, they say springtime in Paris. So I was like, springtime in Paris. That's all it was, Becc.
Okay.
I got hit right in the eye. So I'm coming hard next time.
You watch someone gaslight you live on LinkedIn. It's just
coming hard.
It's a masterclass.
watching the bread maker make bread. Like he's in the kitchen.
The bread maker make bread.
Okay, well.
Bread.
All right, everybody. Well, listen, before we get going, welcome everybody. In the chat, if you have a question you want us to pick up during the question segment, put it in there. And also tag somebody or whatever the word is, at somebody who should be watching this right now.
All right, perfect. Well, with that, we are on to the first segment of this podcast, which is Email Teardown. This is the segment where we tear down emails that were sent over to Becc and Keenan. Now, on to the first email. So this email says, the subject line is perfect match for a sales guy, Inc.
Uh-oh.
Bonjour, Keenan.
Oh!
I wanted to say hi.
Paris for Keenan. Perfect match. Bonjour.
Oh, yeah. Perfect match. Well, hey, I wanted to say hi, thank you, and some other combination of words that hopefully gets your attention. Alas, I wrote this email instead. Let me get down to business now. Having helped several startups, businesses, and enterprises with their end-to-end software development, we believe we are the perfect fit for a Sales Guy, Inc. We are a strong and experienced team of dedicated developers who offer you the following fringe benefits that I'm sure you'll find borderline fascinating. Fingers crossed. Immediate starts, on time and within budget delivery. Glass wall visibility with absolute access to the team. No binding contracts. Standard work for hire agreements with strong IP protection. If any of this made any sense, would you be interested in a quick call tomorrow to discuss this further? Have a more than tolerable day. Jackson Bridges, product and technology enthusiast. P.S. If you don't want to receive any more emails from us, simply reply and let us know. Keenan, very long email. What are your thoughts on this one?
I freaked out, man. I give the guy A for effort. Like every single line, except maybe his bullets, you could tell his brain was fucking going. Like every line. What do I say here? What do I say here? Okay. The problem is, first and foremost, I would love to sit down and talk to the guy and figure out how you're building a software development company around startups, unless it is a SaaS company that needs the product is software, right? My product is not software. He didn't reference our online training, so he didn't even knows anything about it, right? So if your product isn't software, like if you're not actually building a SaaS, startups don't have internal software needs. They everything is outsourced. Everything is, his cloud-based apps in the toolkit, what am I trying to say? The tech stack. I don't have any need for developers, right? So it was just I just think his target market's terrible. He got our company name wrong. I don't know anything about those things he said in there. The glass wall thing, I don't even know what the hell that means, right? So it just landed super flat.
What about you, Becc? What do you think about this email?
Yeah, well, everything Keenan said. I will say the one thing that this guy had on his side was the most pattern interruptive email that I've seen to date, and politely pattern interruptive. It wasn't in a bad way or a negative way. I didn't feel offended. I didn't feel like he was overly silly. So I think a big problem that people don't solve for within their cold emails is how do I stand out and how do I get the person to even read the email? And so leading with bonjour, Keenan. And his first line, I wanted to go to LinkedIn and look up who he was. So I did think he'd do that. He did that really well in the email.
I agree with that. Good pet interrupt. And Becc, I can't hear you that well either. I'm going, now I can hear him in fine. So bring your mic closer or something, please.
You can't?
Nope.
All right, while we figure out these technical difficulties, let's go on to the next email.
Oh, no. I can hear you fine now when you get closer.
Now you can?
Tell me your microphone was not behind your computer.
No, it's always been behind my computer because I think it's a douchebag move to have a podcast.
It's all good. I can't really hide this one because it's right next to my face. But
I've gotten in trouble for making jokes about the relationship of the podcast mic size too. Well, let's just leave it at that.
Let's just leave it at that.
I just started sentences with bigger the podcast mic, and then I just trailed off.
Well, okay, we have 30 seconds, so we'll probably go past the buzzer. However, yeah, that mic's definitely better. But this one, the subject is MRR for Flip the Script. Hey, Becc, we helped another founder build a network of 12,000 industry-specific connections in just 4 months. How? Targeted content that engaged thousands of prospects in their target market on LinkedIn. At Blank, we help you maximize the full potential of your LinkedIn profile with 100% done-for-you content creation that's guaranteed to resonate with all your target prospects and put your lead generation on autopilot.
He didn't have to buzz himself.
Sorry, I'm very loyal to the process.
Yes, buzz himself.
Yes, but free for a call to learn more. Look forward to connecting. Blank. P.S. If you're not interested, let me know and I won't follow up. Becc, what are your thoughts on this email?
I just front to end don't care. I really just don't. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. There's so many words in there of leads, prospect, market, LinkedIn, lead generation that I'm it's the same email every single time to me. The one thing I will comment on and pass to Keenan is this need for people where they're P.S. if you want the thing, just reply to me. P.S. if you want to get removed, just reply to me. P.S. if you just tell me which number so I can update my CRM. And I'm the cost is that I have to reply to you, number one. But number two, I know you're going to try and counter me. I know you're going to try and keep talking. And that is the game that you're playing. So I think it's an extremely, extremely dishonest game that people need to stop playing. Yes. It happened to me. I'm going to say this and then I promise I'll tail off. Happened to me today. I was walking through and someone came up to me and started speaking French. And my new false objection is I speak zero French. And he asked me hey, did that guy stop you? And then he goes, oh, you speak English? I'm shit, yes. And he was hey, did that guy stop you earlier? And I was oh, no. So I started to pay attention. I said, oh, no. And he said, he's with blank. And so am I. And we're the number one. I was you piece of shit. He was trying to get me to stop with a genuine question of oh, did that guy hurt you? Or was he trying to talk to you? So that I paid attention to him to engage. And then he transitioned into, oh, well, it's because he's a part of this company and so am I. And this is what we do. And we want you to sign this thing. And I was man, how you get the attention matters if that's the actual premise for why you want to talk to someone. It has to hook. Anyhow.
Keenan, what do you think about this email?
Nothing.
Or he doesn't agree.
All right, perfect. Well, with that, we are going on to the second segment of this podcast, which is
Sales Mythology.
This is the segment where we demystify common myths in the sales industry. Now, the first myth of today is prospecting is the most important part of sales. Keenan, what are your thoughts on this one?
No.
Got 10 minutes left.
I know. You're up, Becc.
You're up, Becc.
Oh, my dream come true.
Yeah. So.
Oh, wait, no, we're moving it back.
Here's the deal. It's where we spend the most time. It's where the most investment is. If you think about it, if you sit down and break down your expense in sales, your largest pieces in the top of the funnel. You have more top of the funnel tools. You pay SDRs, BDRs. You have marketing, which is top of the funnel, right? And so we're desperately trying to get as much into the funnel as possible. The problem is that because of poor selling practices, because of the laziness of salespeople, because of the lack of experience as sales managers, the lack of sophistication of sales managers, the decades-old selling culture of hard closing and the selling culture of making your number and driving to numbers as quickly as possible, and the pressure that VCs, public companies, and everybody else are under, once we get them in the pipeline, it's a shit show. It's an absolute disturbing shit show that I myself participated in for years and never really noticed until I stepped out and slowed down and took a moment. The most important part of sales is what you do after you get that opportunity into the pipeline collectively. How is the salesperson assessing and managing why that buyer has to change in the first place? How is the sales management team assessing the job that the salesperson did and understanding the problem? Does the organization truly know why the buyer needs to change? What happens if they don't change? Have they measured all of the elements for change, the why buy and why buy now, or the cost of inaction, whatever words you want to use? How well is first line management working with the reps to understand that? How well has the rep ensure that the buyer understands that and knows where they are? How often does an actual sales leader or sales manager qualify out for the buyer, saying, look, you know what, we look at this, we don't think we're a good fit for you? How often does a sales manager challenge the qualification criteria that the deal's even in there in the first place? I mean, I could go on and take this entire 10 minutes and not finish. And it is taking me, I don't know why it's taking me so long, probably because I haven't been able to put it in boxes of the right rubric. It's embarrassingly a shit show that we continue to accept as a sales culture what is happening. How do I do this? I have spoken with many different CROs, and it's not uncommon for CROs to tell me that they have what they call dead deals or lost deals in their pipeline that are still showing up in the pipeline report, and nobody's doing anything with it. Sometimes as much as 10 or 20% of their pipeline is deals they believe are dead but don't know are dead. They don't have any information on it. So think about it. If you have a pipeline, doing easy math, of 10 million, you get 2 million of there. You don't even know what the fuck is going on, and they're still there and no one's taking them out. Right? We have deals. We're at the end of the quarter. Right now, I already know 50 to 70% of the deals that are predicted to close this quarter are already pushed. We have no sophistication. We have no real, repeatable, reliable process. And I'll end on this because I just totally pulled it back. Right? Is the last thing I'll say is most sales organizations don't even know what qualitative criteria is most critical in determining whether or not a deal is going to close. They have no idea. It's all quantitative. They've got the contract. They said they want it. We're talking to power. They have budget. It's all quantitative. They have no idea what actual qualitative data causes a deal to close. It all correlates. So the most important thing to this whole thing at the end of the day is its deal conversion and win rate is the most important of sales. Don't get me wrong, top of the funnel is right behind it. I'll even go survive the neck and neck, but by no means is the top of the funnel.
Oh, what about you, Becc? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think I would have to know about the word important. Says it's not or it's the most important. In some cases, I do believe it is. If you have no prospects to sell to, then it is the most important thing, is getting the prospects engaged. But generally speaking, I think it's where people focus the most often at the sacrifice of focusing on what Keenan's talking about, within discovery, that people aren't, interested in that back end. They're more interested in at bats. I don't buy, so industry average, I think a misdiagnosis for people is they say like 20% is normal, and people are misdiagnosed, or it's a misdiagnosis in that 35% conversion is normal for inbound from what I've seen, and 6% is normal for outbound. And so people are hybriding that and saying 20. I'm not convinced that 20% is I believe it's a normal number, but I don't think it's a healthy number, because I see how people are selling. So it's like, I understand that people are, let's say, whatever, 400 pounds on average in this city, for instance, but I don't think that that's necessarily a healthy number. I think that we've just convinced ourselves that that's normal because everyone's doing it. But the quality of discovery, and I'm going to base quality on the fact that they uncover information for their buyer, especially information that they didn't know, is at like, I would say a 0.0001% on the discovery calls that I've heard. Like, they can't just even get off the leading questions. So I believe that it would be around, I mean, it's a self prognosis, but I'm guessing that it would be around 50-55% if people were able to do that within discovery, but they don't. But I would say as a whole, people focus on top of funnel much more, when bottom of funnel, just from a math view, if you focus there more often from a revenue perspective, you can do yourself more favors than focusing on top of funnel.
Oh, way more. I mean, sorry. You want to go to the next one?
No,
Let's keep going. It's a good one.
Keep going.
Look, there's a couple. We got to add in too, right? CAC is destroyed by low close rates.
Yeah.
I almost never hear anybody talk about customer acquisition costs as it relates to deal win rates. They always talk about the expense side or the closing side. No one stopped and said, wait, if our cost of acquisition is $2,000 per new customer, and we have a 15% close rate, if we were to raise that close rate to 20%, our CAC would decline by $500 a person. Wow, look at that. I mean, that's free money. Free money.
The crazy thing to me is I think there's an insane, and this is a big topic for me, I probably never brought it up before. There's an incredible arrogance to me with account executives, and this might be the SDR leader in me or SDR coming out of me, but I think prospecting is the least well-known topic. People don't know how to do it well. Most AEs are willing to admit that they don't know how to have a great cold call, but I'm like, these are parallel, meaning your ability on a discovery call is usually matched to your ability on a cold call. And so I think people beat prospectors up and they're like, oh, well, that's the easy part, so we're going to pay them half the money, but like I need to, and the biggest justification that I hear is, well, AEs need to be focused on their expertise, which is closing. And I'm like, Brendan, let me give you a heads up. I've listened to their discovery calls, and that is not their expertise either. They're not discovering anything. They're an order taker, and they're slowing things down. And honestly, it would be faster with the self-serve online. And so I'm like, I think that people, I do believe that and maybe they're the one in the same topic, but I think that no one is willing to take a step back and admit, especially as a seller, because you're supposed to know more at that point, that they have no freaking clue what they're doing on a discovery call. They have no ideas what questions they should really be asking. And they net, if you had like a true conversation when they were 5 shots of whiskey deep, they know that they're not actually uncovering things to their buyer that they didn't know. But I think people just blame top of funnel. They're like, oh, I don't have enough at bats. We should focus there because it's almost like this place where I can shift the blame.
Oh, Randy Coutreau. Oh, Becc, you relapsed.
What? Who said that?
Brandon Coutreau. He's French. All these French things come up late.
Because if I took an AE and put them on a cold call or prospecting, they would probably do 10% of what like very highly trained effective SDRs would do. But if I took an SDR and put them on an AE call, I'd say they would do about 90% of what an AE could do. So I'm like, honestly, I just don't know where all of the entitlements coming from and all the, I don't know. That's my opinion. It's late. Found out that I can't get my couch shipped to yours, so I'm just taking.
And look, I think another thing I'll get buzzed is I don't think there's any rigor around when you put deals into the pipeline. I think we see people put deals in the pipeline right before they close, right? And that artificially increases the.
And there's no accountability to forecasting either. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's bad. But I'm like, it should be as bad as not hitting your quota, because then you're just showing that you don't know why something closed or why something didn't, which is most of your problem with conversion anyway.
Oh, I get it. Sorry. I'll say this again. Watch this, Becc. Brendan Coutreau said, "Oh, Becc collapsed." Yes.
I'm sorry, Brendan. I told him I'd switch to Brad because he came up with some good stuff in the Sales Hacker webinar.
Yes.
Sorry, Brendan. Sorry, Brendan. I'm tired.
Go to Chad. Oh, Chad.
Chad and Shannon. Those are the.
Well, hey, with that, we are going on to the next segment of this podcast, which is
Take It or Leave It.
This is the segment where I introduce common sales tactics, and Becc and Keenan let us know whether they would take it or leave it.
I love this segment. It's so my personality. Just fucking answer the question and move on.
Y'all have never asked what my favorite segment is, but you tell me every time.
We don't care.
Becc, what is your favorite segment of this podcast?
You know what it is.
I know exactly what it is.
Keenan, what's my favorite piece?
Sales mythology.
Yeah, it's a piece he complains about.
Well, hey, the first take it or leave it is changing the way you sell based on their personality profile. Becc, take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. It's always a good idea. I'm going to take it. It's a really emotional EQ. Are they introvert, extrovert? Where are they on the scale? I'll use it as a piece of the pie, but what it contributes to actually closing is, like, in my opinion, 5%, maybe, but I'll take it. Like, why not?
What about you, Keenan? What do you think? Take it or leave it?
I'm a hard leave it.
He's going to leave it for ego's sake.
Now, I'm sure there may be data, and I'd love to see the data. And this is a conversation I'd love to sit around and have a glass of wine, a glass of wine or whatever over, right? Because there's data and then there's the whole real world. But I'm not saying ignore the cues. We all should be conscious of the cues. But this idea that people, let's say I'm a emote responsive red, and I think it's a disc, whatever it's called, right? And Becc is more of a blue, and she's more analytical, etc. I'm not going to try to be somebody I'm not, right? So I'm going to be my authentic self under any circumstance all the time. Now, if I know that someone is more interested in the data, fine, I'll get the data, but I'm still going to be my authentic self. I'm not going to change the way I sell. I'm going to sell the way I've always sold. I'm going to be my authentic self. And buyers will understand that and see that and feel more comfortable. Anytime you try to change something to fit a situation, you lose. I don't care what it is. Dating, fucking interviewing, sales, you lose. Be your authentic self 24/7.
All right. The next one for today is
seething. Look at her. She's
No, I would just say changing the way you sell and changing yourself are two different topics. But I digress. This is short and quippy, Keenan. It's your favorite part. Go on, man.
All right. The next one for today is product-led growth. Keenan, take it or leave it.
He's going to leave it.
fucking leave it. Leave it. I actually saw something the other day that said now they're trying to create a hybrid, product-led growth with sales-led growth or something. I don't know what the hell it is. But and it's just basically the whole world of product-led growth people trying to backpedal without saying they were wrong. Okay? I will die on this hill. People, and we own this, people don't value salespeople because we are product pushers. I've been barking on this thing since I wrote Gap Selling. If we stop being product pushers, we actually continue to or move into being advocates for solving the problems our customers are dealing with. Product-led growth does not do that. And I'll give you a stat. And I'm going to butcher it because I didn't memorize it. But I believe from our study, 71%, I'm going to make it small because I can't remember exactly, but it's over 50. 50% of people or more bought the wrong product or service because they didn't properly understand the problem. It's 32%?
52.
52%. Thank you. 52%. Now, we surveyed another 500 plus people, so I'm sure it's shifted a little, but still around the 50% realm have bought a product or service that they shouldn't have bought because they didn't understand the problem. That's what product-led growth does. People are going to get hip to the fact that they don't know exactly what they want. They want someone to answer questions. Buying software, something like that, is not buying a fucking hammer off the shelf at Home Depot. And it's ridiculous to think you were going to scale a business that way. It wasn't going to have high churn. And it was going to provide value. Throw it out.
I bet. Close us out. Take it or leave it.
It depends. It really does. The only difference between product-led growth and sales-led growth is you're inserting a person in there. And if that person is doing anything other than diagnosing, which normally they're just talking about product anyway, then I don't see what you're inserting other than a cash cow that you have to pay off and who has an ego and who butchers your product description. So, for really low price ticket items like Dropbox, Slack, I don't know why you would need a person for.
I agree, but I don't believe that's sales.
He said, I agree.
I think Becc is right.
Every time,
Becc is right, but I don't see that as sales. I see that as a transaction.
Every time Keenan says that, an angel gets his wings. I believe in love again and magic
and Christmas and everything.
I believe in magic. I don't know the next word, but.
All right. Well, with that, we are going on to my favorite segment of this podcast, which is
The Inbox.
This is the segment where Becc and Keenan answer questions from our audience. And with that, we have the trusty help
freaking mailbox
of the mailbox. Yes.
To leave that.
Inbox.
No, don't you worry, Becc. I'm now only going to show this side of the mailbox.
Do better ones that aren't transparent and put our big faces on.
I know. Do you know what the issue is? The issue is that I chose the wrong transparent paper, so now it's leaving a lot of residue. So I'm gonna need to buy a new mailbox. Actually.
Whoa.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Make it a pink one.
By the way, if we haven't said to everybody, Min graduated this spring.
Oh, yes.
If we have not announced this on the show, shame on us. Everybody listening, give Min a round of applause for graduating from the University of Texas.
University of Texas at Dallas. Yes,
okay,
I recently graduated, and as you could see, I've also moved. So this will be the new podcast background.
Like a typical American, I graduate, make more money, go spend it.
And I promise I'll get a haircut too. So
no, I like hair like that. Keep it. It looks good.
Oh, you like the long hair? Okay, we gotta go into this first question. This one is from Liliana Enlow from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Can we start it over? No, is that not the rules? Okay.
We can start over. Hold up. We're gonna see the intro, the segment intro again. So hold up. Let me send this live.
The Inbox.
All right, cool. So this one is from Liliana Enlow from Albuquerque, New Mexico. She asks, do you two believe in re-engagement sequences, as in outbound campaigns to try to revive dead leads and inactive deals? I personally believe the "we miss you" emails are a bit tacky, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks in advance. Keenan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I totally believe in them. I agree with this young lady. She seems like she's very smart. I don't like the cheesy way that they do them, right? I'm sorry we missed you or couldn't get you on before or whatever that stupid shit is. But absolutely, I think if you've engaged with someone before, for whatever reason, there's nothing wrong with going back later, right? Now, if you've done a decent job in engaging them, you had a discovery or you had something and you can tie back to that. Last we spoke, I remember you said, and so in Beck's world, that would be relevance, but that's really good relevance. Not picking something off of LinkedIn, but saying, hey, I remember our conversation, right? So absolutely, unequivocally, yes, as long as that sequence or that approach taps into what you talked about before and is attempting to provide value on why you're reaching out again.
All right, what about you, Becc? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same school of thought. I believe in them, yes. How they're normally done, I don't believe in them. I agree with this person that I love the use of the word tacky, but yes, they usually are done in a very, very tacky way. I think to add on to what Keenan says, if there is a meaningful trigger especially where a problem is going to arise in a future date, and like that's going to be the time where you re-engage with them, and that's the reason why, or something new happened that instigated a new problem for them, I definitely believe in it. Mostly I won't even go into that. Mostly how it's done, it's just like, hey, so you fell off. So I just want to send you another email and see where it's going. Another way that people have used them is like they went with a competitor and they're up on renewal. I would argue that you should have been messaging them the whole time. The how is always going to be to add value, though. Teach them something that they don't know about them in specific is the way to re-engage with them, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we're on to the next question of today. And this one is from Jessica Martinez from San Antonio, Texas. Hi, Becc and Keenan. I'm a sales rep in the HVAC industry. In discovery, I find my buyers are usually guarded and suspicious from the jump. And I believe it's because they think I'm just another salesperson that's trying to shove a product down their throats. How can I break down those barriers and show them that I'm actually on their side and out to help them solve their problems? Becc, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so there's two pieces to it, and then I'll defer. But they believe that you're guilty until proven innocent in this case. So the two antithesis of a salesperson is someone who is about their buyer. There's two pieces to trust, really. I trust that you're telling me the truth. Or three, I trust that you're telling me the truth. I trust that you have my best interests in mind. And I trust in your ability to be able to help me. Even if I trust that you're telling the truth, a lot of people that I trust that are telling the truth, but I don't think can help me, right? So I think leading in that manner of like how you quote unquote build credibility, I get that question a lot. Lead in the manner of when you're asking questions that you're building credibility through the questions that you're asking because you're helping uncover things that they didn't know about themselves beforehand. The sooner that you do that, the more quickly that you do that, and with the alacrity that you do that is going to dictate how much they're giving you a trial run. They're not just like, I'm going to close with trust. They're going to give you like a little kernel. And if you ask them a leading question, they're going to redact and they're going to close off. So it's really that kind of relationship where you have to earn the right with more and more questions, unfortunately, because of sales history.
What about you, Keenan? What do you think about this?
I think Becc gave some great advice, so I don't want to theoretically pile on. What I would rather do is, without hearing her, I'm going to be tactical. When she gets on the phone, the first question she should ask is, because I'm assuming that this is cold call, it's different, and I'm going to assume that they've agreed to a meeting. It's how I interpreted the question. It's the first meeting. So the first question I would just ask every single time is, hey, I really appreciate you meeting with us. Could you take a few minutes and walk me through what is behind your desire to talk with me? Why is it you agreed to meet today? What is it you were hoping to accomplish? Why is it you were willing to carve an hour out of your day to talk to me about X? Mm-hmm. Right? Just start there. Mm-hmm. And if you're paying very close attention, you'll be able to ask a very simple follow-on question that they'll feel comfortable answering.
Perfect. Would you like to elaborate? Is that all good, Keenan?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, in that case, we're on to the next segment of this podcast, which is
the challenge.
This is the segment where Keenan and Becc tear down a challenging subject within the sales industry. And the challenge for today is how to develop your salespeople. Becc, why don't you start us off with this one?
I'll lead with the starter. There's so much to that.
You just look frozen in your tracks. She's like, where the fuck do I start with this one?
Yeah, well, it's pretty easy to start, in my opinion. I was just getting overwhelmed when I was walking around earlier today, and I just realized where sales is at as a profession, which I realize more and more every day. But I think like the biggest thing that sellers need to know is they need to have consultative level knowledge on their buyer. That is not where anyone starts, and very rarely what someone actually gets into at all. But they very deeply, egregiously need knowledge on their buyer. Way more than their buyer does. So I'm going to start with the first step, and then I'm going to kick it to Keenan. Maybe we just list off things that they should know or they should seek after in that journey. The first thing you need to know is you need to be able to close your eyes. So if you're watching this, listening to this, if you can't close your eyes and name what your buyer is metriced on, meaning your buyer persona, what are they metric to drive? That's square one, in my opinion, is know, like, if you're going to know about soccer players or basketball players, you need to know what is a point for them and what is a win of a game. Like, that is step one, in my opinion. That's how I'm going to lead. Keenan, what do you got?
I was going to take a different tack, but I'll continue to play with you here for a minute. So you need to understand the problems that impact or negatively affect or undermine, whatever word we want to use here, that undermine those KPIs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go number 3. You need to know the root causes that instigate those common problems for them, not just the ones that you solve for, but the ones that are like in total that can cause those problems. So if it's like, quota attainment, for instance, for SDRs, then you know the 8 root causes that can typically cause a problem of not hitting quota. What do you got for 4?
You need to make sure they understand the world they live in. Who are their customers? And I could never list them all. So people, you have to do your own work. But there are things like, who are their customers? Are they regional or international? Are they highly impacted by government regulation? Are they highly impacted by swings in the market? Or are they highly, when I say by the market, I mean things like commodities. Are they impacted by the speed of technology? Are they impacted by other external forces, right? Are they a high, what's the word I'm looking for? Personnel type of business? In other words, are they a service business and require heavily on human interaction and human resources? Are they light on that, but heavily dependent on technology? Are they heavily dependent on what's that stuff? Utilities, electricity. Like you need to understand the environment at which these people play.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to leave or go to, that was a good one, by the way. And with the winks. So
that was you hugging me. That was you hugging me.
Common unknowns, root causes where they know the problem, but they don't know the root cause. Impacts that they commonly don't know that are tied to the current problem. Future impacts that will happen that they commonly aren't aware that are going to happen. Current events that just happened that they typically don't know about that do affect their world today. Future events that they are going to happen in the future that are going to impact how they should solve for it now. So I'd say you need to know which of these criteria, and there's always some in every bucket, that they typically do not know about as a buyer persona, so that you can be after that in discovery. So you're after like hotbeds of things that they hypothetically weren't thinking about that could hurt them. What else you got?
They need to understand the top 3 or 4 competitors and how those competitors solve the same problem differently. Let me say that again. They need to understand who is my competition, and then how does my competition attack the problems we've identified, and how is their approach to attacking it different than how we do it? And then more importantly, where and how do they attack it differently, where it is better than us, and where do we attack it and do it differently that is better than them? That is rooted in understanding the root causes to the problems. You must attach the approaches to solving those problems to the root causes. The reason this matters is when a buyer is saying, I'm thinking about going with X instead of Y, you can say, first off, if it's the right choice, you shouldn't have gotten that far. It's like, look, their biggest problem is this, and someone does that way better than we do, so I'm out. But the second reason is, it's like, I understand that they do it cheaper, or they say they're going to do it, but you can say, listen, the problem you're struggling with is A, B, C, and D. The reason that is happening is X, Y, and Z. Our competition, or a company, they address it this way.
Mm-hmm.
It will get it done, but here are the problems with that approach: 1, 2, 3, and 4. We recognize that if you can eliminate those 3 things, we do it this way, which is going to save you time. It's going to reduce the number of flaws, whatever the answer is. So yes, they can do it, but they do it differently. And in the end, that may cost you more money than the difference we have now. So you must be able to understand how your competitors address the problems, not in a vacuum. We're better, they're better. No, you understand how they solve the problem differently.
It's a good one. I'm going to go with industry statistics and benchmarks that highlight to you the aggression of the problem at large in comparison with other people in their situation. So how many booked meetings is quote unquote normal? What is the normal conversion for a sales rep? How often typically is ramp? So that when they say, for instance, I hear a lot of people say like, oh, well, our reply rate is abysmal. It's only 2%. And I'm like, industry average is actually 0.5 to outbound. So I'm like, I would want them to know or be equipped with, so they can relationally gap, how well do I think that they're doing within the diagnostic process? Like how bad are they doing in relationship with others, so I can self-assess that. What else? Yeah, I have one more.
Well, do your last one, because
you go.
No, I want to transition now. This is not what I was going to address, and I want to make sure I get a chance to what I want to address, because it's about building salespeople.
So the criteria of which they will need to deploy the solution, side effects of the solution, problems that it could cause when they do deploy the solution, so that they have a heads up beforehand. So when and if that thing happens, that they know how to address it and what they're going to need to address it. And they can quickly respond back to you if they are running into that situation. If like, this is a typical side effects. And if it's not solved after 2 weeks, you need to get in touch with your doctor. So all of that around the solution and deployment of it. What did you want to rant about?
So what I want to add to it, the question was, read the question again, Min?
The question was how to develop your salespeople.
Yes. So that's all the information they need to know. Now, the way you develop them, you have to build a process internally that does the following 5 things. You must. First step is you have to build a process that allows you to observe the salespeople in real time doing their job. It can be on Gong, Chorus, go out and watch it, listen to calls, like recorded calls, doesn't matter, but you can find ways to actually observe the behavior. Secondly, then you must build a process that allows you to describe the behaviors you saw for that rep. Third, once you've described it and described the impact of the behavior, okay, then what you want to do is you need to prescribe what you want them to do moving forward and the new impact that prescription will provide. Then you need to then create a process that allows you to observe them again and see if they've absorbed what you told them. And then finally, a process allows you to absorb. Almost got it out. And then finally, you need to build a process that allows you to provide feedback and observe whether or not they applied it appropriately. And then wash, rinse, repeat.
I have one thing to tack on the front end of that. That's the key before all of that, in my opinion, is you need to have a method that you establish as what they need to be doing. Right.
That was what we just all went. Oh, you mean that? Yeah. Okay. Got it. I see your point. Yeah.
Which instill a methodology so that people know what they're being tracked on, or like, what are they being marked on, observed about. That's it.
All right. Well, with that, we are on to the last segment of this podcast, which is...
Oh, listen, just one more thing.
This is the last segment where Becc and Keenan give us their closing thoughts. So, Keenan, why don't you start us out with this one?
I think I went last time and Becc didn't get to go, remember?
No, you go.
No, remember I did that big, long...
Okay.
I went off. No, it's Beck's turn.
No, he can't do that.
Yes, I can. I'm surprised that Min didn't remember and didn't.
No, I remember, but I also know that Becc likes her time to prepare for her rants.
So somebody got into your ear.
No,
interesting.
I'm very hospitable to my guests.
Interesting.
It's not into his ear; it's into his heart.
Whatever, man.
He sees that you're the villain and that I'm
That's a metaphor.
Situations.
Well, Keenan, what is your just one more thing?
Know that Becc is always working behind the scenes.
Oh yeah,
Becc is always working behind the scenes. And if I'm not careful,
my controllables.
If I'm not careful, she's gonna come get me.
Yeah.
You're out on the edge.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, my one last thing today is we need to be more respectful of women in sales. Go read Mark Cosaglow's post, or Costaglow, however you say it, post the other day on LinkedIn, where he followed a female seller around for an entire day, observable moments. And not in one meeting did a man not interrupt her at least once.
Mm-hmm.
Not once. So we need to start being more clear about subconscious bias. We need to stop arguing that we don't have them. We stop burying our heads in the sand. We got to start respecting, I'm going to do women today, but start respecting women in sales and be more conscious of how we engage with them, how we cut them off, how we inadvertently diminish their participation in their what's the word I'm looking for there? What they offer, whatever they offer, they bring into the table, right? So we got to get better. We got to get better. And I'm tired. I'm tired of a theme that's going through our society today that is very attacking. We're attacking everybody, right? We're attacking gays, we're attacking trans, we're attacking blacks, we're attacking women. Like everybody thinks the world is just America. Everybody thinks America's gotten past all that stuff. And so anytime anybody brings it up, everybody starts digging in and, there we go again. But no, it's just the evidence is clear. We need to be more vulnerable as a society and recognize that we have centuries of female bias that has to be undone. And if we don't do it, we're losing out. Because I personally think women are far better sellers than men.
Becc, what about you? What is your just one more thing?
I almost did actually that topic. So
yeah, you had your chance, Becc.
I really did, but I'm going to do something else. But I will say, I'm only going to make one comment. I've noticed it more and more as I go. Like it wasn't my natural bent to think about that, I think. But the biggest place it pops up for me, or the most clean, teachable way, let's say that, is I notice a lot that people expect me to be nurturing because I'm a woman, especially as a trainer. You know, they're like, oh, well, she's going to be there holding my hand, coaching it. I think I talked to men about this at one point. And then when I'm not, and I'm just like in, out, on, like pragmatic, blah, blah, they look deeply offended, and they come at me for it. And I'm like, well, I am nurturing on an off note outside to a very select few amount of people, but not the mass. And that's okay. I don't owe you baking cookies because I'm female. I don't even know how to bake. Min's the master baker out of the two of us. Turn on my oven. What I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to spend a minute and a half, and then we can close, is last week was Fashion Week in Paris.
Oh, I should have been there. Damn.
I know.
I miss my wife. I once again, I miss my future wife.
I know. I was thinking there's tons of models. Maybe Keenan could, settle down. He could find someone.
I'm ready.
Wearing that shirt, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Fashion Week last week, and people make fun of fashion, in sales a lot. They're like, oh, well, that's a really shallow industry and da-da-da. And I've done quite a bit of research on it. I'm really drawn to it, not obviously.
You would know it. Oh!
I like how Keenan goes on a rant about respecting women, and then he disses my clothes and talks about hooking up with people.
Oh, that's just because you're my friend. It got nothing to do with being a chick. I'll do that shit all day with anybody I like.
So And everyone makes fun of it. They're like, oh, it's a really, really shallow industry. Da, da, da. And I've done a lot of studying on basically the investment level they have to be. So everyone knows couture. Basically, haute couture there's a French Federation of Fashion. And way back in the day, a girl named Rose Burton, who made dresses, clothes, etc., for Marie Antoinette, she was known as the first influencer. And what she was doing was she was making dresses and for the wealthy. And then she would come to all these boutiques and basically tell everyone what they were doing from the high standard level so people would imitate it. And that's how the fashion world worked. So you can't just walk in and like be couture. Like, it's not like something that's like, oh, nice clothes. There's a certain amount of criteria that you have to hit. Number of ateliers, the fabrics that you're using, the uniqueness of the concept, how detailed the design is. And there is a select amount of people in the world that exist every year that are known as, that hit those standards of couture designers. It dipped in the 70s. Currently, there are only 18 human beings that exist in the world that can be that are a quote unquote couture designer. And what they're entrusted with is basically doing new designs with new concepts, with new colors, with new different ideas. And that small group of people is entrusted with the responsibility to design that all other designers will imitate and put out the clothes that you have, see, and wear today. What I mean that to say is there's unbelievable standards and training and rigor and love for the craft that they put into that. And it's very inspiring to see people who have given up everything for the right to be someone who can influence how the world dresses. So my plug is, I don't see the same in sales at all. That is my dead on, honest truth opinion, is there is a commitment to the craft that we are bereft of.
I'm a couture sales guy.
So before we point fingers at anyone, I mean, there's only 18 people who have done that this year. And I think we need to make a turn that to influence others, you need to take very seriously where you're influencing them. And how you do that is not by thinking about it a lot, it's by studying a lot and by investing and learning about your craft. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have standards, number one. And number two, I deeply worry about where the sales community is headed on a daily, nightly, weekly basis. So my prayer is that people put in the time to progress our craft forward out of a love for our craft,
I just looked them up. I think there's more than 18, but I just looked them up. The 2023 Hot Couture.
18 formal members, and then there's like additional sub members outside.
I don't know how they do it, but like I don't even know half these people. Rami Al-Ali. I know the ones I know is Christian Dior.
Yep.
Jean-Paul Gaultier. Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Coco Chanel.
And they'll fall in and out of grace.
I'm sorry?
They'll fall in and out of grace. Like, just because Dior is a couture designer this year does not mean Dior will be a couture designer next year. And that is an exhausting standard.
There's a whole bunch I don't even know.
So I'm like, there's like, what are they called? Whenever you starts with an A, like when you went to college, alumni. There's alumni members. They're ones that like sub in. But just because Oscar de la Renta was one this year does not guarantee a slot next year. It's the same standard. And while that's exhausting to them, it takes care of the craft. And you could say, well, everyone wears clothes. And I'm like, a lot of people are in sales. Sales is one of the biggest professions in the globe. And I don't see the same love and the same desire. And when I see those runway shows, like every sense of mine is firing off because of how inspired I am by someone's commitment and drive and labor because of their love for that craft. So I'm like, come on, people. Like, we have got it. They all know each other and they push one another on, you know? They push one another on in their commitment to what they say they love. So if you want to be in that, it's not so much as a medal as it is a responsibility, but a responsibility that you love if you love the craft. It's not about you. It's about global. It's about the global vision. So I'm like, people, if you're going to be in that slot, freaking buck up and start learning what everyone else is doing and what salespeople are doing. Stop thinking about me all the time and focus on, we have got to have some people in the chair to push this field further. I'll say it and I promise I'll shut up.
I don't
like,
believe it.
like, oh, there's no original content. I'm like, people, we have tons of problems. There should be. We need original ideas. We are not even close to there. And if you think that, that disqualifies you from being an influencer, in my opinion. So I'm like, we have so much crap to do and so much more of our buyers back to have. So I'm just begging people, like, if you love the crap, if you love yourself, then just go focus on yourself and do your own side thing, right? Okay. But like, if you have people following you, or, you know, you need to take, people are like, oh, don't take yourself that seriously. I'm like, you absolutely should take yourself seriously. And you should take your craft seriously. And you should take your work seriously, or you should get out of the chair. It's my view. So I know that's fired up. Happy Fashion Week, everyone. Stop making fun of my labels. And read a book. Read a freaking book. That's my biggest. Start to read more than LinkedIn posts. Okay?
Oh, preach, preach, preach. Well, that's our podcast.
I'm Keenan.
I'm back.
You've been listening to Sales Top to Bottom.
See you next week.